you want someone else to go first, John?
Yeah, I think in fact, we're on day 4. We're recording. I'm going to go first after Jono got absolutely panned last time. No chance for him to give him a chance to come back this time. So I found this day quite hard, to be honest. Again, in finding something that I would lay now, I was baffled that Spanish Harlem has just been walloped in the betting as much as he has. I don't know what's happened today that's changed. Different to the one yesterday with So Scottish for day 3. I don't understand why he's so short. Spanish Harlem, I understand the case because there's horses that have been in and around him that I like Imagine. But I don't understand why he's so short for the Martin Pipe. So I definitely, maybe I've missed something today. I don't know if you guys have seen anything that's happened where he's into like 7-2. So
no, Willie recorded something a few days ago that said that was his best chance of the Martin Pipe.
Right. Okay.
It was a bit of a nothing thing, really.
Yeah, that's fine.
I think it's probably just been a bit of a bandwagon off that.
Yeah. He also was interviewed back in as long ago as December, and he said this is one to watch out for. So people are putting all of that together. So
he's given notable mentions, hasn't he? Kind of across the winter for him.
Fair enough. Staying chaser next year, maybe. But yeah, I'd lay him. That's just too short for me when there's just loads of other horses in the pipe that I like. There's the bet I would have, and it depends when this goes out, but there's a horse called Zenta running tomorrow at Fairy House in the first race there. That's a race that's been won by Ikare Allen, Tihupu, Burning Victory, the last 3 winners of that race. So just one of the trials before Cheltenham. Obviously, Burning Victory was very lucky to win the Triumph, but Ikare Allen ran well. I'll come on to him in a bit. And Tihupu obviously might be a Stayers Hurdle winner. So quite a good trial. 25-1, non-run, no bet. I 100% would be taking that. I know he has been tipped up before at a bigger price, non-run, no bet, but 25-1 is just massive. Also, obviously, Willie's already got a strong hand. And if, depending on how Nusret gets on in the Adonis tomorrow, for Joseph, it might look like the Irish are way ahead. So I think pretty likely to run. There's also the chance of her going for the Mares Hurdle, where she's Mares Novice Hurdle, where she's 20-1 non-run and no bet. But I think she would have a penalty in that for a win in France, which I'd have to check, but I think that's the case. So just the absolute kind of bet that I like making. It's non-run, no bet. I think if she doesn't win, she's very unlikely to run. So Zenta, if we get this out in time, and if not, it doesn't matter because Blood Destiny's going to win the Triumph anyway. So so never mind. And my other tip for the day would be Ikare Allen, who I think the run of the Betfair Hurdle last time was rubbish, and I think it was rubbish on purpose. I think if he was going to be winning that day, he wouldn't have gone off 12-1. It just looks a plot to me for this year. That run in the Triumph behind what Phil Dorr has done since, and Vauban, and I think it's a lovely little bit of form. You know he's going to act on the track as well. It was a good run in the Triumph. I didn't mention him for the Coral Cup. He's also 25-1 for that. I would definitely back him for both. I can see either a strongly run county hurdle suiting or a step up in trip. Wouldn't bother me wherever he turns up. I absolutely love the price. Part of me thinks I must have got something wrong because it's still 25-1 non-runner no bet. So I just feel I must have got something wrong with it. But they would be my tips and lay for the day. Anyone? Jono, do you want to follow that?
Yeah. So starting with my lay, and that would be, it's obviously not a ridiculously short price. So it's not a bit of risk of laying it. But Noble Yates, I can't have him second favourite for the Gold Cup.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it's madness. Connections, obviously, I think people are kind of latched onto these connections a bit too much at times. I think if they can win a Gold Cup with this horse, having won the national, it'll be one of the best training performances I've ever seen. I can see him placing in the Gold Cup, so I'm not going to knock him too much. But I can't see where the price is. I'd have Statler, Aplutard. Obviously, I have question marks, but I'd have him ahead. I'd have Brave Man's Game ahead of him. He will stay, and I think the one thing they've got up their sleeve is obviously the cheek pieces that he wore to win the national. They've been left off. I'm pretty sure they'll come back on in March. That should kind of sharpen him up a little bit. Maybe get a little bit more improvement out of him. But I think he's just going to find too much to do. You kind of look through his form. I mean, this season, the only piece of form that kind of warrants the price he is the Many Clouds race at Aintree. Obviously, he kind of scooted clear at the end, unlike kind of a 3 mile chaser. Had an unusual look to it. Looked to have plenty in hand, but it was only Dashel Drasher that he beat. Ahoy Signor is completely up and down this year. I don't think he can be trusted, and that wasn't a particularly good going day for the horse. Jumped terribly early on. Cotswold Chase, not a great pointer for the Gold Cup. I think it's got a shocking record for horses that have ran in it, and their kind of how they fared in the Gold Cup. I do think he will turn that form around with Ahoy Signor, purely just on the weight difference. So he's in and around kind of a horse that can place, a horse that will run on. But to me, he should be the same kind of price that Protectorat is, who is 16 to 1. Ahoy Signor is 12, so I think that's a bit short. I just don't see him as a second favourite in a Gold Cup. I would be shocked if he can win it. Place definitely, but yeah, he's not winning a Gold Cup for me. In terms of a bet, I think a bit of money's come into him. So when I did this last night, I think he was 14 to 1, but that price is gone. But I like Gin Coco in the County Hurdle. Obviously, I think after last weekend with I Like to Move It, kind of an eye opener now in terms of that Greatwood hurdle form. Obviously, came second. He's 4 to 1 favourite. Travelled like a dream through the race, but got kind of put in his place by the winner. But we've seen what he's gone and done. I do think you can question that 157 rating for I Like to Move It, but I think even if you doubt it slightly, I think rated 135. I'm not sure if that will be if they might up that a little bit, but even then, I think he's certainly going to be ahead of his mark. He'll be near the bottom of the weights. He'll get in, but yeah, he'll be near the bottom. He was favourite for the Betfair Hurdle before he got pulled because of the ground. 6 runs, extremely unexposed. We've seen that the Greatwood Hurdle has thrown up a couple of kind of notable skeleton runners, really. The skeletons used it for the likes of West Cork and Superb Story. So hopefully Harry Fry can kind of use the Greatwood Hurdle as a springboard as well. And I also, one of my things with handicaps, I quite like a horse that's done it in kind of big field handicaps. Just kind of one of the kind of checkpoints. I think the Greatwood Hurdle this year wasn't really a typical Greatwood Hurdle. 13 runners, it wouldn't be the kind of norm for that kind of race, but he did come second at the Punchestown Festival in a 25 runner field. So I don't think the big field should worry him. Obviously a different track, it'll be the new course, but he handles Cheltenham. And yeah, unexposed, near the bottom of the weights. I really like him. I do like Kev Shout as well in the race. Obviously, they're kind of top and tail in the market in terms of the weights. Kind of one of the top weights. Jin Coco will be right down there. So yeah, he would be a bet. And to be honest, there's not.
I think he's a great bet as well, Johnny. I've put up today on the forum actually the Harry Fry Trixie. I think I put up because I snuck Love Envoy in for no reason, but Mai Tai in the Martin Pipe with Jin Coco. I think that's a great double. Harry Fry's going to be cleaning up.
He's going to love it. He's going to be charging down, running down there, seeing Jin Coco. In terms of the other bet, to be honest, not too much jumping out at me. One I would probably take, I think, Willie Mullins has the triumph. It will be his to lose. I do just think that Lossiemouth and Gala Marceau, everyone will think Lossiemouth will overturn that. There's every likelihood she will. Gala Marceau was going away. I don't think it's completely kind of certain that she can't get ahead of Lossiemouth. Obviously, she's had a lot more runs in France than Lossiemouth. She's probably more experienced than a lot of the Triumph runners. So I'm not saying she's got loads kind of up her sleeve at all. But I just think a 5-1 each way, I think she will probably place. I think she'll have Danny Mullins on again. And it wouldn't shock me. I'm a massive fan of Blood Destiny. I like all the three Willie Mullins runners, to be honest. But I think the market will just have it right. Lossiemouth will overturn the form. I think she'll actually drift a bit. So I probably wouldn't back her now, but I would definitely be going each way on Gala Marceau.
Okay. Thanks, Paul. So I'm going to start in the same race with my lay, which would actually be Lossiemouth, not because I'm concerned about Gala Marceau necessarily, but because I think Blood Destiny is the better of the two. I've been very impressed by the two runs so far this year, and I do think being out of no risk at all, the better ground could really support Blood Destiny. So I'm actually big into the Blood Destiny. But up to my lay would be Lossiemouth. So in terms of the two, I'm going for another Mullins horse, but this time in the Albert Bartlett. And I hope this horse runs. I'm not sure if it will or not, but hopefully it will. Shambali Kid is a horse he's mentioned a couple of times early in the season, bought out of a Clonmel bumper by Giginstown, which is unusual by itself, £190,000 for it. Came out and ran at Limerick on soft, heavy ground, finished fourth, made up too much ground, too much out of its way, and then made up too much ground, lost 2 places on the run-in, but over too short of a distance, over 2 miles, came out and then won over 2.5 miles. A horse I think is crying out for a longer distance, probably be a better chaser in time, but I think the ground, and another horse out of no risk at all, I think. No, actually he's not no risk at all, but he's another horse who I think will benefit by decent ground. And I think at the 25s or more that he is now, I think he's a cracking bet, to be quite honest, in that race. If he runs, one of my bets of the week, to be quite honest. And then the other one I'm intrigued by in the Martin Pipe is another one of Molly, should I say, not the other one, Auturier, who I think will also be suited by the better ground. He's won his last, I think, certainly last race, maybe his last couple of races. I think he's been prepared for a race like this. I think he's still potentially well handicapped, and that's the one I'd be looking for in the Martin Pipe. I was tempted to say A Plus Tard, but there's just too many questions for me to say that. But I think at 7 or 8 to 1, people could be sort of scratching their heads afterwards and say, how did we let that horse go up at 7 or 8 to 1? But too many questions at this point from my perspective. So for me, Auturier and also Shambali Kid with the lay being Lossiemouth.
Okay, so my lay and my first back are both in the same race. First thing I'd say is probably the tongue-in-cheek thing to say would be just lay anything that isn't Willie Mullins trained on the Friday, because he's got a seriously strong hand on the Friday. I wouldn't be surprised if he had 4 or even 5 winners. But anyway, so my lay, because I'm not going to do these 15-2 shots that you guys do, that clearly you'd never even consider doing in real life. So my lay is Vorslett. So my guess is when you guys look at the Friday, you just assumed he was going to win. Well, Vorslett isn't going to win. He's going to run a really big race, but Secret Investor is a horse that I'm going to recommend backing, because he will run the whole field ragged. So Vorslett at best has been rated maybe somewhere around the 146, 147 Racing Post rated. But he's only hit those 140s a couple of times. So he's a horse that has his level in the point field. Secret Investor, for that matter, has already put a mid 140s RPR up this season, having had coming back after 2 years off effectively. And if you go back and look at what he did and what he was prior to that injury, his last race was in the Denman Chase before that injury, where he beat Clanders Oboe at the time that Clanders Oboe was winning King George's. So he was rated he was rated 162 then. He was what his peak rating would have been, I don't know, but mid 160s, putting up on more than one occasion ratings in the mid and high 160s. He doesn't have to be anywhere near his best to win this race, and he's already shown that. He ran a Hunter Chase at Kelso. I think it was a week ago. It was Friday last week, and he absolutely romped round in a really good time on his favoured better ground. So there is some assumption here that we're on normal festival ground. If he gets soft ground, that won't work for him at all. But he is just a significantly better horse than Vorslett. He's 10-1, and Vorslett's 7-4. So for me, it's just a no-brainer. I back Secret Investor, and I lay Vorslett. I just think he's a stonking good bet. He is going to go off considerably shorter than that. People will, because it's the Hunter Chase, people don't look too deeply, or they look nearer the time. But he's going to go off much shorter than that. He's much better than Billaway, who's been winning Hunter Chases and whatever else has been winning over the last few years. This is a quality horse. This is a grade 1 horse at his best. So, probably not going to go and win the big grade 1s, but he's going to place in those kind of races. And he's running a Hunter Chase. And he's been out at Kelso and shown me that he still has ability. Whether he can get up to the mid to high 160s again, I have no idea. But, presumably they're not expecting that to happen at 10 years age. Otherwise, they wouldn't be messing around in Hunter Chases. But, he clearly retains ability, and what I saw should be enough to put it up to Vorslett. He's a front-running type. When you've got amateurs on board, I quite like that. Too many amateurs miss time races, and get stuck too far behind and can never make up the ground. Secret Investor's the kind of horse that will just get them off the bridle, and he can keep going. So I think he's a really good bet.
Just one quick thing. Sorry, Paul. I'm not going to pretend that I even take much notice to the kind of the hunting through the season. I find I get sucked into these kind of the horses that come from kind of top company come in late. I mean, you just have to go through the list of winners. It's not that they don't win this race. It's usually the Hunter Chasers.
Yeah, like Famous Claremont, that's the one I like for this. But
yeah, that would be the only thing.
I don't know enough about it to care.
I get sucked into kind of the horses that, you go back a couple of years and you go, they could be thrown in here. And it just never seems to work out.
Well, I think you've got to look at the types of horses, really. Pasha de Polder, should have won twice, won once, if had a better jockey on. And Pasha de Polder wouldn't be in the same sort of class as Secret Investor. Nichols is quite good at this. He's got a stable full of quality horses, and he can do these kind of things. Pasha de Polder, somebody probably have to correct me, was probably a high 140s, maybe to 150 type horse. Secret Investors was a Grade 1 horse. As I say, there was saw sufficient evidence at Kelso last week to tell me he retains sufficient ability to go and run this lot ragged. And look, things change, don't they? We've seen trends change. We've seen trainers running better horses in different types of races. We've seen the National Hunt Chase improve from what were just a bunch of plodders. We now see genuine Grade 1 horses winning that race. I don't know. I can't remember off the top of my head, but effectively, we've seen races just get better, and it'll happen to the Hunter Chase scene sooner or later. And Secret Investor for me is the best those that has switched to Hunter Chasing, that's proved that he retains ability. You've got another one potentially you could throw into the mix in Chris's Dream, but Chris's Dream wasn't that kind of class. So he's a bit of a quirky old horse anyway. He's the kind of horse that probably finished second to anything anyway. So, I wouldn't put anybody off an each way better for a horse like Chris's Dream. But we've got 3 really good quality horses there with Vorslet there too. Billoway's been there and done that, but I think, I think these are better than he's faced before. And that's kind of the point, really. The bar's higher. So it's hard for horses to come. And I also do like Famous Clermont, by the way, Kev. I actually mentioned him on the forum some time ago. And I think they're still to and fro whether they come to Cheltenham or not.
Yeah.
He is going to be of a similar quality to Vorslet. But I think Secret Investor is the one. I think he's an outstanding price. I think he's a better horse than the rest. I think it's as basic as that.
You don't think Chris's Dream wasn't a better horse than Secret Investor?
No, I don't.
Seriously? Really?
Yeah, genuinely.
Well, I would argue that all night long. I think Chris's Dream was a
How close would you have had Flanders Oboe in a Denman Chase or a King George or something like that? I don't think so.
Well, I don't know. Chris's Dream won a Troy Town by 10 lengths, easily operating in high 140s. That puts him in the UK over 160, well over 160.
Yeah, I'd have had him in the 150s, but I don't disagree. He's a good horse, but he's not a Grade 1 horse.
No, I don't think Secret Investor was a Grade 1 horse by any means.
Well, we'll agree to differ on that one.
Yeah, I think we will.
He's got the evidence in the book, so
yeah. The only time he's run at Cheltenham, he ran poorly, didn't he? That's Secret Investor.
Yes, yeah. The one thing that you could level at him is that he would be better on a flatter track. And that's not uncommon with those horses that like to free will. The second one that I've got for the day is a horse that actually I'm surprised that people haven't been jumping on. But I think, look, I know why. I think this is potentially the best Albert Bartlett we've ever seen. I think it's just chock full of really, really good horses. It's hard. Look, we're all putting horses up in this race, and it's the first time again. I'm thinking this is a better Albert Bartlett than the Supreme. I mean, it's just what's happening here. The Supreme is normally the pinnacle of novice hurdles, and actually, Ballymore and Bartlett potentially are much better races than the Supreme this year. And that's never been the case with the Bartlett. It's never been even remotely close. You've had either shock horses or you've had 1 or 2 horses that are much better than the rest.
There was that Monkfish year, to be fair. That was a good renewal. But that is...
Yeah, it was the top 3 in that year. And then I think Janitor was beaten maybe 20 lengths or something, wasn't he? That kind of distance back, and then it was also runs.
Yeah.
But this potentially just seems to have a lot of potential future graded horses in it. So it's a tough call to pick one out, and I just felt that I needed to go with some value in this race. You could make the case, and you could make the argument that Willie Mullins will have another one too. I like Shambally Kid. I think Embassy Gardens put up a really good performance. When he went on his romp last time out. So it wouldn't be a complete shock if Willie did what he did last year and had the 1-2 home, would it? You'd probably have a little saver on the reverse forecast or something. But the horse I'm going to put up is at 25 to 1. That's Dawn Rising. Joseph had the option of going to the Martin Pipe, and probably with a pretty well handicapped horse, I would think. He'd been there and done that last year with Banbridge. And if Banbridge he thought was a grade 1 animal at that time, you'd think he probably would have gone to the Bartlett. He just thought he was a well handicapped horse. So that run in Ireland, when was it? The Dublin Racing Festival. I've actually forgotten. It was the Monksville, wasn't it? It was the Laws and Ace.
Lawless.
He ran the Laws and Ace. He finished third in that, beating in another way of thinking, or whatever that weird name is that they seem to like using at the moment, or something similar. That potentially would have been favourite for the Pipe. Behind two very good horses, but ran in a way where he was running on. So looking as though, he would improve for the step up in trip. And I just think it's been a bit overlooked, because I think people had assumed he was going to the Pipe. And again, similar to what I was saying with Sir Gerard, I think people tend to, put the colours to the mast by that stage. And people have found their horse. It's not 100% true, of course it's not. But I think a lot of people are already on something else. So I think he's got a bit forgotten about, in actual fact. And, certainly in terms of, the race he's running, he won the Monksfield. He got outpaced and ran on and ran a really nice race in the Laws and Ace over 2.5 miles. All the signs are, now that he wants to go 3 miles. I think he's going to run a really big race, and Joseph is no mug. If he's going to run this horse in a grade 1 rather than a handicap, I think he's going there with the right chance.
Understatement of the year, Joseph is the future greatest of all time.
So my second selection for the day is Dawn Rising at 25 to 1 in the Albert Bartlett. I've got a bit of a bonus horse to throw into the mix. It's a horse that I've been looking at since I saw the entries. It wasn't on my radar until I saw the entries, admittedly. And you guys know I follow a lot of the French form. I do quite a bit of work on French ratings to try and find opportunities over here. And I like to play those French markets because I quite often see the traders here make ricks with prices, and I'll play that game. It's one of the few areas where I've still got a bit of an angle, I suppose. But there's a horse entered in the Fred Winter that hasn't run in the UK that crosses into a bit of form that I've been following. And actually there's a horse that crosses through that's already in the UK and has run in the UK with Fergal O'Brien. Anyway, the horse that I'm talking about is a horse called Jolly Nellery. Nobody's ever heard of it. Nobody even knows the horse exists, and nobody noticed it in the entries for the Boodles. It's with Venetia Williams. She bought it from Guillaume Macair's Talent Factory. Run 3 times in the provinces. Finished second for second. And as I say, there's a bit of French form in there that I can get a handle on. I did my own rating on that. And I have a friend over in France who also just helps me with his view on ratings as well, because he does ratings as well. I think, based on the conversation that we've had, that Jolly Nellery is going to be rated probably somewhere in the 127 to 129 mark by the UK handicapper. If it's any less than that, I think it would end up seriously well in. But I think there's also a case that could be made for it to be significantly higher than that. So it was touched off in its last race by a horse called Lion Kirikou. And as I say, that crossed into a bunch of form that I've started to follow over in France. The fourth that day was a horse called Fille de Roi, which is Fals de Roi, ROI, which is the horse that's with Fergal O'Brien. That horse was touched off by Affodil at Sandown. So Affodil was one of those that's made a bit of a late play for Nichols. And I think people got a bit excited about him until he got turned over last time. Affodil's entered in the Fred Winter, and he's got the Connor Nichols profile that will probably end up being backed, because I suspect Nichols didn't run him on his merit last time. But Jolly Nellery was 14 lengths ahead of Fille de Roi, giving him £11. And Fille de Roi is already rated 123 in the UK. So if you want to just equate lengths to pounds, that would make him £25 better than Fille de Roi, who's 123. In other words, he'd be in the mid to high 140s. There's also little bits and pieces of flat form that cross over that you can follow through. And again, I had somebody just have a look at that for me to see if it really stands up, because horses that have ones or twos against the name doesn't necessarily mean they're any good, because they can be running against other horses that aren't very good. But apparently the flat form's certainly okay, a bit better than okay. And Jolly Nellery is 25 to 1 in the Fred Winter. So I think he's worth a bet at that price. Yep. I mean, you're taking a punt to a degree, because we haven't seen what the UK handicapper will give him. But, he was pretty conservative with Gaelic Warrior last year, wasn't he? So I've no reason to believe that this horse is going to get hammered by the UK handicapper. I suspect it'd be reasonable. I think I'd be disappointed if he was 130 plus. That doesn't mean I don't think he could still win, by the way. But I think I'd be disappointed, because I think it would be unfair compared to what he did with the Gaelic Warrior last year. And if I was Venetia Williams, if I got a rating higher than that, I think I'd probably be having a word with the handicapper, and then hopefully going and romping up afterwards after he listened.
What's the lowest that gets in? I don't know. Like, what was the lowest last few years?
It's actually a strange race this year, because when you look at the Boodles this year, you've got, I think the highest of the UK horses is probably low 130. Might be worth just somebody having a...
Yeah, I'm just going to take a look, yeah.
Having a quick look while I'm talking, because I think we could end up with a really weird shape to the race this year when I was looking at it.
The highest UK horse is Beau Zenith, with his £7 clear at 133. Then you go down to Punta del Este at 126. So that's what they currently are, yeah.
And look, there's a good chance that Beau Zenith goes to the Triumph Hurdle rather than here as well. So, and then you look at the Irish horses, because because obviously some of those haven't got ratings yet, or there'll be some that have got Irish ratings, but most of them haven't got ratings at all. So you just then start to work through the Racing Post ratings, and the one that's got the highest Racing Post ratings is Takao, which is only 133. There's only Takao and McTeague that have Racing Post ratings that hit 130. Now McTeague isn't going here, I'm told. McTeague is going most likely for the Martin Pipe. So that's a whole different story, and not one I'm going to go through on this podcast. But he's very interesting for the Martin Pipe. So you start to look at the Irish ratings, then you start to look at Racing Post ratings for horses like Sir Alan and Common Practice and Newsray that are only sort of mid to high 120s. So where's the handicapper going to place them? He's not going to place them much higher than 130s. So we're going to get a really low possible top rated horse, and a little bit of compression going on, I think, across those ratings. And I think we could also find with that race that something with, the bottom weight this time could be much lower than usual. that would be my sense and feeling, that we might have horses getting in at 121, 122, and 123 that we perhaps wouldn't normally see making the race. So there's a possibility.
On that point, Paul, Nusrat is in the Adonis tomorrow, and his UK rating is 130. So.
Yeah. Okay. That's perfect then, isn't it? So, if you just take a broad rule of thumb that the handicap is going to add somewhere between 3 and 5 to racing post race, it's not simple because that's not what the handicap is doing. But just as a guideline, you're talking about top rated being in the 130s. If you remember when I did the Naiad on Wednesday evening, Nassalam, when he was top weight in the Boodles 2 years ago, of 148.
Yeah.
So this has got a bit of a weird shape to the race this time. Certainly doesn't follow the pattern of the more recent Boodles. So we could get a much more compressed handicap, which, tends to mean that, the difference in weights doesn't matter too much, but we could have something sort of very unexposed off a much lower rating in the race. But anyway, that's kind of irrelevant. I think he's going to get in with a really good fighting chance unless the handicapper goes and does something silly. And I think at 25 to 1, I wouldn't be suggesting anybody goes mad. But I would recommend perhaps getting a stake in the ground on him, no run and no bet. And if he gets the rating that I'm suggesting that he might get, then I'd perhaps go back and have a second go next Tuesday when the ratings come out. So, a bit of a bonus one there that I don't think anybody will have considered or even looked at or even heard of. He's obviously not a Naiad type because I've had little time to work on him. But I think he's very interesting, and I think he's one that I wouldn't discourage people having a little punt on right now.
Lovely stuff. Perfect. Right, that wraps us up. I'm sure we'll end up doing some more podcasts or preview before. When are we now? 3 weeks. So yeah, we'll sort that out. Anyone else got anything to say?
No, just looking forward to it now. It's starting to get the buzz. It's in that sort of window, isn't it?
Yeah,
and I think
the best.
getting all the handicaps out and all the ratings out on Tuesday. That's it, really. That's the proper countdown from that point onwards.
Yeah, 2 weeks Tuesday.
2 weeks Tuesday, yeah.
2 weeks
yeah,
Tuesday.
yeah. So,
Come
really
on,
looking forward to it.
Come on, Fun and Boule Savola.
Mm.
Right, great
How
stuff.
did he not get a mention?
Hey, because
How
he's
does he
40
get
to
a
1
mention?
now. Because I don't have to time, do I? Like you. And my loyal followers, all one of them, are on 130 to 1. Right. See you later.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.